I want to encourage the bedding here, so I'm going to try and knock down as much as I can in front. I don't know, these bigger trees are just a lot harder to hinge, obviously. I'm just taking them all down. At the end of the day, that's the goal, to get as much sunlight in here as we can. I'm really excited to see what it looks like now that we got all this sunlight that can get in here, what it looks like this spring. What's up, guys? It's a snowy day in mid-January and we're back up at the 70. Got the saw up with us again today, and there's, like I highlighted in the last video, there's two big south-facing slopes on the north side of this property. So I'm gonna start going to town on those. Want to figure out a stand location and figure out a couple bigger, hopefully bedding areas where we can kind of overlook from that stand. Also want to take a quick second and just say how much I've appreciated all the feedback, recommendations, insights that you guys have shared on the channel so far. Would love for this to turn into just a community where we can bounce ideas back and forth and just learn from each other. So appreciate that. We're gonna get after it today. Hopefully it all goes well. We're gonna see how much we can get done. Found our stand tree, and we're probably 75 yards north of the food plot. And I've highlighted it before, but there were so many times this season where we'd have deer work both south to north and north to south across this food plot. So you can kind of see with the topography here, everything funnels down. So we'll put the stand up here. We've got great cover. And I'm gonna start cutting a little ways west of us, and that's all south facing. So then in a perfect world, we got a south wind, that bedding will be in front, and if I really wanna get crazy, I can have, or try and funnel them so everything's in front of us, and then on a south wind, you'd like to think that bucks would check that bedding area, or would hopefully be a bedding area, and then it would work in our favor. So a lot of cutting to do. We're gonna get after it and see how much we can get done. I mean, you can kind of see how it's almost like a valley. And I know it kind of contradicts us from everything we've said before about everything working on top of the ridge, but it's kind of a natural funnel through here. And I mean, it makes sense why they'd be using it. And we saw a ton of movement through this area all season. All right, we just made it to our first spot. Like I mentioned, this is all south facing. So I want to encourage the bedding here. So I'm going to try and knock down as much as I can in front. And then once we get finished here, we'll head back closer to the stand and then try and cut some both in front and then around that to try and funnel them in front of that spot. So a lot to get done. We're gonna get after it. Well, you win some, you lose some. At least she's down. Well, obviously not an ideal hinge on these bigger ones, and I don't know, these bigger trees are just a lot harder to hinge, obviously. But at the end of the day, they're down and they're soft maple, so there's not much value to them anyway. And the main goal is just getting a lot more sunlight in here. So keep after it. My hope with these stumps too is, everyone always talks about how these maples, there's so many sprouts that can come off them. And I've even heard the term of like a mineral stump because of all the new growth that comes off of them. So that'll be interesting to see if they do sprout off this and if they do get hit. So far so good. Well, we just went through our first tank of gas in the chainsaw, and so far so good. I've kind of got to the point on some of these bigger maples, it's just really hard to hinge them. So at the end of the day, my main goal is just to get sunlight to the forest floor, just to increase stem count and make things a lot thicker in here. So a lot of those are just breaking off, which it is what it is. We'll definitely have to come back here and try and make this a little more detailed. And what I mean by that is just make some trails through here, hinge some of these smaller trees on some of the bigger ones, and just doctor it up a little bit. So we're gonna head back to the truck, fill up the tank again, and then get back after it. Oh, we just filled up the chainsaw. There's a ton to do, but we've definitely made some headway, and we'll get back after it again. I wanted a quick highlight too. We put that camera up on that cutting we did last week, and even in the span of just 1 week, there's been a ton of deer using that, whether it be them browsing on just the trees that we took down, or it didn't look like any were bedding up there, but we haven't been up there to check either. So that was just encouraging to see, and I'm sure they'll be using this the same way. We're gonna get back after it and see how many more we can get down. So I just got to the point where I've kind of accepted the fact that on a lot of these bigger maples, I cannot get them to hinge. So I'm just taking them all down, and at the end of the day, that's the goal, is to get as much sunlight in here as we can. So if anyone has any insights or thoughts on how they would hinge, or how you would do it, I'm all ears, because obviously this isn't working, but at the end of the day, the goal is just to get sunlight in here, and that's what we're accomplishing. I just hopped in the center of this cut, and from the inside it looks pretty nice. I'm encouraged. I could totally see a deer bedding right here facing south, overlooking kind of the bottom in front, and then they got all this fallen timber to their back. So makes sense. I definitely need to come in here and open it up a little bit to make it a little more accessible, but I don't know, I'm encouraged, and I'm really excited to see what it looks like now that we got all this sunlight that can get in here, what it looks like this spring. We're gonna head over back to where we picked out that sand, cut a little bit more there, and then we'll get out of here. So our stand tree is right over here. The reason I like that is there's, 5 different trunks coming off that maple. So there'll be great cover. And what I wanna do is I wanna try and keep everything in front, so to the west. So then hopefully nothing gets downwind back behind us. Access is gonna be the north line all the way in, and then jump in here from the back. So I like it, especially during the rut. And as we've mentioned, we've had a lot of deer work the food plot and come out right in this area. So I'm gonna try and block this off as best as I can, and then we'll get out of here. All right, so it's kind of taking form here. You can see how we have our stand tree right over my right shoulder here, and I'm trying to make this blockade right in front to hopefully, like I said earlier, filter them off that south facing slope where we cut earlier, all the way out right to the big bottom plot, and then back and forth like they were doing all season. So just gives us another option here. A couple things I want to finish up, and then we'll call it a day. Well, we're losing light here pretty fast. We're going to call it a day. Just wrapped up this second spot here. There's a lot of work that needs to be done both here and the first spot we were at, but thankfully it's a long off season, and it felt good just to get up here and get a start on things. So Really appreciate all the insight, feedback, recommendation from you guys. So thanks a bunch for that. Not sure when we're going to be up here next, but we're going to keep trying to pump these videos out. And yeah, as always, thanks for watching, and we will see you guys on the next one.